Hey everybody, Dr. Ben here, Functional Medicine Centers. We're going to talk about antibodies today. We're going to talk about, are antibodies good for you, bad for you? Can you test for them? Are they a sign that you've had a virus or not? Are they a sign that your body's being attacked or not? All of these different things, we're going to get deep into antibodies, and so you'll have a great understanding of what is actually going on. So welcome everybody. Hope you are doing great today, and go ahead and pop down below where you guys are watching from. Love to see all over the country, all over the world. If you haven't already liked or followed our page, go and hit that button as well. Tons of information out there. Try to get very pertinent things out that you can do to take charge of your health today. So, and if you've got any questions, pop those down below as well. We watch these even after the video is over. If you're watching this as a recording, hey Chris, great to see you. As you're watching this as a recording, we'll still be answering those questions and helping you guys out. So antibodies, these are in the news, these are everywhere. You hear them about COVID testing, we hear them about even autoimmune diseases, all these different things. What is an antibody? Is it good? Is it bad? What is actually going on? And what does it tell us as far as, does somebody have autoimmune condition? Have they been exposed to a virus? All of these different things. So let's get into it right now. If you've got any questions, go ahead and pop those down below. So here we go. Think about it this way. An antibody is part of the immune system. It's going to be produced from the body, and its intention is not to attack things, it's to tag things. I think about it like this. There was this movie a few years back with the guy that played Thor, and it was 12 Strong, based on a book where these, I can't remember if they're Army Rangers or Navy SEALs, somebody correct me on that one, where they actually got on like horseback. They were going through the Taliban, basically, all of these troops, everybody were attacking them, and they were on horses and shooting people, and they would call in the B-52 bombers and blow up the Taliban. I can only imagine what those guys are thinking now with what's happening in Afghanistan. But the antibodies are the same thing. They're going to tag and they're going to target things for destruction. So the antibody doesn't do the destroying. Let's say, anybody know any viruses? Anybody heard of any viruses out there? So let's say there's a virus that we're exposed to, or a bacteria or a pathogen, whatever it is. We're going to get this exposure, and the antibody's not going to destroy that virus. The antibody is going to tag that virus and say, hey, this is where you need to bomb. And then the immune system, the natural killer cells, the cytotoxic T cells, these different things are going to come in and destroy whatever pathogen that is. So that's the natural progression of things. And then when we're done, then these are going to be turned down, and the immune system is going to be this teeter-totter, turn up at the right time, turn down at the right time, and we're going to attack when we need to, we're going to calm down when we need to. And so what we've got going on here is, whether it's a virus, a bacteria, anything at all, we need to be able to rev the immune system up, tag it, destroy it, and move on. So then, let's say you had chickenpox as a kid, and you dealt with that virus, and now the chickenpox comes back into your body. You were exposed to it, all these different things you were exposed to again, and so then the antibodies, instead of taking a couple weeks, that's why even when they started saying COVID's a novel coronavirus, and it took people a couple weeks for their immune system to rev up and get these antibodies, that novel virus, okay, so it would have to create antibodies again, but here it already has some antibodies to the chickenpox. It revs it up again, targets that for destruction, and then we destroy that virus again. So you don't get chickenpox again. If you get shingles, that's reactivation of what's already left in your body. So the antibodies are going to sit there for some diseases. They're going to sit there for a long time. So like chickenpox, measles, mumps, some of these other ones like West Nile, and some of these mono, some of those you will see if you retest antibodies for years and years and years. And then there's certain types of virus like influenza, so some flu virus, coronaviruses, they're more of like the common cold, some of those. Those are not going to be long-term antibodies. We're seeing it. Some of you go ahead and post down below if you've had antibodies tested lately for COVID, how long have you gone? And some people are 9, 12 months and they still have antibodies, which is great because that means they get exposed again, boom, they're going to take care of it. And even if they do get sick at all, they're going to be a lot less chance of having a bad infection there. So these are more of the seasonal viral antibody infections here. And so what this means is that as you get exposed again, okay, well, maybe you don't have the antibodies, but we've got T cells. Patricia, 14 months, great. So, it can last, and it can last a long time, depending on the person. We don't know, will we still have antibodies to COVID in 3 years from now? We don't know. But if you check your Epstein-Barr antibodies, if you had mono, we can see those. So this is really interesting. And so a lot of times there is some decrease in antibody production for these seasonal upper respiratory infections. So what does that mean? Well, over time, it's not going to be as quick of a response, but you know what? What we do see is that the T cells are going to be able to be activated a whole lot quicker. People that had been exposed to other coronaviruses have done really well with this COVID-19 because their body has seen similar enough so that it can optimize very quickly and attack and do what it needs to do for that immune system. So that's how antibodies work. So then what happens when the body goes haywire? And so let's say this is the end of a bone and we start creating antibodies to the end of that bone. And so that's going to be rheumatoid arthritis. And so then the immune system, instead of attacking a virus or a bacteria, comes in and starts attacking its own tissue. And this is called autoimmune. So it's self. Immune system is attacking self, autoimmune condition. And so this is going to be, Paul is still 9 months later, great job, good job immune system. So autoimmune, 190 named autoimmune conditions. It's the third leading cause of death when you lump them all together, because this is going to be very similar reasons why we have these issues. And so that's what we're looking at, whether it's MS like my mom had, thrombocytopenia like my wife had, autoimmune to the brain like she also had, it could be alopecia where somebody's hair's being attacked, it could be psoriatic arthritis, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, all these different conditions. The immune system is going haywire and we're attacking our own system. So that's autoimmune. And so antibodies, they can be really good, fight stuff off and help target natural killer cells, boom, attack all those things. But they can also be really bad, and that's where in the blood work you can test for antibodies, and you're going to look for these cells that are going to be targeting your own body for destruction. Okay, so we've got autoimmune, and that can go to any one of these 190 named autoimmune conditions. And good news, these are all reversible. This is how my mom was able to get out of a wheelchair. She had MS. Now she's 78 years old and doesn't have plaquing on her MRI anymore. She does granny boot camp, was watching my kid's soccer game last night next door to the office here, and she's able to function so well because her body was able to stop damaging its tissue and actually repair those. So that's what we look at. And here's the big thing though. If somebody has one autoimmune condition, they have multiple. So you've got to be aware of that. You've got to know that, oh, you know what, I had type 1 diabetes, attacked my pancreas, now I'm fine. Well, no, odds are you still have those underlying issues going on in your body and you've got to deal with that. So this is going to be autoimmune, where the antibodies tag your cell for destruction, we start destroying that. For somebody that has Somebody laughed at me the other day for drawing like this. For somebody that has, their TSH tells their thyroid what to do, thyroid's kicking out T3, T4, all these good things. But then those antibodies come in and they're going to tag that thyroid for destruction, and that's Hashimoto's. We start destroying that tissue, all of these different things. So antibodies are great, but antibodies out of control are part of the problem, and that's why so many people are dealing with autoimmune, and so many people are dealing with even disability from autoimmune. So here's what happens then. Can you test for antibodies? And two different things. One, you want to test to see if you have antibodies for certain issues. So this would be, do you have Epstein-Barr antibodies, mono? So is that recurrent? Is it coming back? Any of those things. Do you have antibodies for COVID, for any of these other conditions that you're worried about? So for COVID, a lot of people will look at that and go, okay, well, are these antibodies going to protect me down the road to a variant, to a mutation, any of those things? And the research at this point is showing that it does. And even for people that have said, even on this Facebook page, that, oh, I got it twice, but the second time was a lot less intense. Even Dr. Fauci a couple days ago said that if someone has had the vaccine or they've had the infection, that's going to count towards herd immunity. And so, and it was more like, well, either you get the vaccine or you got to go get sick and get the antibodies is kind of how he said it. But if you have, that's great, because that goes into, okay, there's 51% of the population, they say now, that have been vaccinated. Well, there's probably 30% of the population that has had COVID already, so, and have antibodies. So it's great. We're way closer to having a lot of people in this country protected. Unfortunately, they're seeing that the vaccine is waning, and they're going to make that at every 6 months people need to get a booster from that, which can't even get people to clean their teeth every 6 months. I'll be the first to admit I'm probably at like 9 to 12, and my brother's a dentist, so that tells you how much trouble we're in to try to get that many people. KC, so how long will which antibodies last for? If we're talking about COVID antibodies, we don't know. Somebody on here just said 14 months and they still have antibodies in the test. So it all depends, but something like mono antibodies, those are gonna last potentially a lifetime in there as well. So you go and get a test. And so if you've got COVID, yeah, Casey, so up to 14 months is what we've seen, maybe 15, 16 months that we've seen with patients that they still have antibodies, which is great. So if you want to know, ask your primary care provider. And that's a great question. I want to get to that one in a second. So ask your primary care provider, and they should be able to run that for you. There are better tests than some out there. Judy's at 9 months. So there's a great question. How long after exposure or being sick? So you would want to wait probably 2 or 3 weeks after first signs of symptoms to do antibody tests. You don't want to do it on like day 5. Ooh, I think I've got COVID. Let me run antibody tests. You would want to do it even like a month afterwards would be great. So. Had COVID a month ago and I was positive for antibodies. Great, Casey. That is awesome. So yeah, we have no idea. Retest in 6 months, retest in 12 months. You should be pretty good to go there as well. So testing is great. How do you test for autoimmune then? And that's where there are different tissue antibodies. Like in Hashimoto's, we test for TPO and we test for thyroglobulin. And there's actually 2 types of Hashimoto's autoimmune going on. And what happens is we have the TPO and the thyroglobulin. One's attacking the thyroid, one's attacking the bus that's transporting the thyroid around the body. It's really important. If you have Hashimoto's or know somebody with Hashimoto's, you need to figure out which one it is, because you may not be converting that thyroid around the body like you need to. You can check for rheumatoid factor to see if somebody has rheumatoid arthritis. You can check for ANA to see if somebody has lupus and some other ones. There's a lot of different tissue antibodies that you can test for to see if your body is attacking its own tissue. So you can see how a lot of these things can be interconnected, because if your immune system goes haywire and gets revved up and inflammation, all that, you can start attacking your own tissue. And whether that's a vaccine like my wife had after her MMR booster, stimulated autoimmune, and 2 weeks later started attacking her own platelets, all the way down to just getting a virus can stimulate autoimmune activity. Every time I draw my circle out and we say what stimulates autoimmune, one of those I draw on there is always infection. And potential infection can drive that immune system to go haywire. So you can test for specific infection antibodies, and you can test for autoimmune antibodies as well. So let me run through some of these questions here. What if you don't retain antibodies? So I've got a patient that she's on immunosuppressants. She had a kidney transplant, and now she redid her she did her vaccinations, she redid the test, and she didn't have them. So she may never have developed antibodies after the vaccine, and so she's going to go get her booster. Odds are it's not going to make that big of a difference. So a lot of times if somebody doesn't, this is what happens with older people. Even the flu shot is going to be like 50% less effective in a 70-year-old than a 20-something-year-old, because that immune system of the 70-year-old, no matter how healthy they are, just doesn't have as much robust response, and so they're probably not going to have much in the way of antibody response anyways. Carrie, is the inflammatory response from the dietary intake similar to the autoimmune scenario? So the inflammatory response with the autoimmune, it's going to be driven by your dietary intake issues. So if your blood sugar is spiking up, crashing down, spiking up, crashing down, you're going to be driving that autoimmune response. If you're eating gluten or dairy or certain foods that you have allergies to, it's going to be driving that autoimmune response. So it's not that the inflammation is going to be doing the damage, it's that inflammation is driving that autoimmune reaction. Is the inflammatory response from diet? There we go. We answered that one. Do you have to have COVID before testing for antibodies? I just had a patient yesterday that had his blood work, and he said, "Well, I was at the doctor, and I was never sick, never diagnosed with COVID, but I ran the test, and guess what? He came back for antibodies." So, absolutely, so many people have had COVID and they didn't even know it, or they had to test for it. So, absolutely, if you're going to your doctor, have them run some antibody tests and see if it shows up there, because that could, alleviate a lot of people's concerns as well. Positive for 6 months, great job. Yeah, KC, I think that's a good indication now. You just keep checking through there. 9 months for Judy. About how long after exposure should we check? About a month is a good rule of thumb there. Give your body a chance to do that. And let me see what other questions we have here. I'm recovering from COVID, and my TSH antibodies went through the roof with the illness. So Gwen, was that TPO or thyroglobulin? Did they test which ones? That definitely, viruses, these infections can rev up some of that. What about mast cell activation syndrome or other mast cell disease? Can they be cured? Elizabeth, you've got to calm down that inflammatory reaction going on in the body. So yes, we've worked with many patients with mast cell issues and been able to calm those down. And let me see if there's any other questions. I'll see down below. Hold on a second. Great. All right. So here's the deal, guys. Antibodies, good or bad? Both. I mean, they're just a thing in the body. And can they tell us a whole lot? Sure. They can tell us if you're attacking your own body. They can tell us if your body's already attacked and fought off an infection. And so what do we need to look for? Well, Information is power. Knowledge is power. So get tested. This is why every patient that comes in, we check for Hashimoto's, we check for rheumatoid, we check for ANA, lupus, Sjogren's, all of these different things. Knowledge is power. Once you know, it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Take action. Do what you got to do. If you test positive for COVID antibodies, okay, great. But still, guess what? You've got to still work on your body. Still stay strong. Keep your vitamin D where it needs to be. Do all these things that you know are going to keep your body as strong as possible, regardless of what comes back positive or negative or anything else. Get outside, get your vitamin D, keep your blood sugar steady, get good sleep, exercise, do all those things that you know are absolutely crucial. And one of the biggest ones that we look at, just like my book says, blood sugar doesn't lie. Keep your blood sugar steady. This is one of the biggest things that you can possibly do. Quick read, great book. I'm a little prejudiced there, but we'll pop the link down below for anybody dealing with blood sugar issues. It's a game changer, and we can get your body changing like that. So everybody stay strong out there. Hope this helps. If you got any questions at all, pop those down below. And if you need more in-depth support at all, Phoenix, Nashville, Fort Collins, we're here to help. Take care, guys.